G'day everyone, welcome to the Outback Packers podcast, the podcast where two mates from all the way across the world have a yarn talking Packers football and the green and gold. I'm Nick Gregory, joined by my co-host as always, Joe Pearson, and today we talk about how the Packers have tricked us yet again into thinking that they were a real NFL team. How are we feeling, Joe?
Oh, I still have hope. There's a 6% chance that they can make the playoffs. So as long as there's still a percentage, I'm not giving up.
Look, I think I'm mathematically still not allowed to give up. I mean, I gave up 2 weeks ago and they won. So, you never know what's really possible, but we're at the point where they can't lose a single game if they want a chance to be in the playoffs at all. So this is really it right here. I mean, if they lose this game, the season is effectively over, like mathematically. So I think it'll be an interesting kind of test to see even if they want to stick around in this upcoming game against the Eagles. But yeah, I mean, it's quite hard to see them getting in with the shape of the NFC at the moment.
I suppose, but like I said, as long as there's that percentage, even if it's like 1%, you still got to believe.
For sure.
Everybody's favorite meme. So you're saying I have a chance. I as long as there's still that 1%. And like a lot of people are talking, the Packers will end up winning this game somehow, some way, because this is the type of game that they'll end up just to give us kind of like the Dallas game. They'll make it seem like they're capable, and then I don't know what's the game after.
The Bears.
They'll end up losing to the Bears or something, and yeah. So.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of in fashion. I will say before we move on to the review, they do kind of have they do have a way of showing up to big games, even if they don't necessarily always win. I feel like there's rarely been a matchup against a good team where they've totally disappeared, kind of like I guess Tampa Bay a couple of years ago. But when I think about some of these moments where the odds really are all against them, they don't usually just not show up like they do in some of the games where they're expected to win, if that makes sense. That's kind of the view that I have.
I mean, that's basically what I was saying. They were in it in the Buffalo game outside of a couple of mistakes. They beat the Cowboys, but they lost to the Commanders, they lost to the Giants, they lost to the Jets. Right. So I mean, oh man, I'm pulling a ramage. I'm a little gassy. Now I lost thought, man. I really did pull a ramage. But it's Philly. I mean, Philly, didn't they just lose their last game?
No, but they got real close to it against the highly touted Colts team.
Okay, so it wasn't the Colts they lost to, but they lost the week before, because I know they've lost.
Yes, they lost 2 games ago to the Commanders, yeah.
Yeah, the Commanders. Okay, so I mean, it's not like it's impossible to beat these guys. So there's a chance. And the sad thing is the Packers have the pieces. It's just for some reason not coming together.
Yeah, I think I don't really see it all coming together this season purely just because of the injuries. Even if we theoretically did make it into the playoffs, there's just so many injuries on this team. And as we'll talk about here in a minute, this is the shape of some of these teams that are starting to solidify now, and kind of seeing what those teams are capable of with their personnel and their coaching staffs and things like that. It's hard to see us getting anywhere close to that this season. And it kind of sucks, but we're kind of already past that point, in my opinion.
Who knows? Some teams will go on a streak and a losing streak and just lose out. It's happened. I keep predicting it's going to end up to the Vikings, that their heads are way above water right now, but that water's rising. And
for sure.
I don't know. Even the Lions have been battling back. That's the crazy thing. This whole season has been complete parody to what it should have been.
Yeah, and I guess like for me, that's why I love it. That's the biggest reason why I love this league is just because things can always change every single season. Some of the good teams stay good, but that's through good coaching and good scouting and like purely like skill based things. It's not as if they have some inherent advantage, and things are always changing in the league. It's yeah, it's for me, and that's the reason why I love this league.
Well, I don't like it. The Packers are supposed to be good. The Vikings are supposed to be bad. The Lions are supposed to be bad. And no, I don't like it. So we either need to fast forward the season or rewind the season and start all over. Roger,
I would
are you listening? Start the season again.
I wouldn't be mad. But
I
yeah.
don't think he's listening.
With that, do you want to start getting into this NFC review? I mean, there's been a few transactions for the Packers this week, and obviously we're a little bit far off from the game, a bit of a later recording this week. But I think we should just start by talking about the two cuts we had just this past week, Amari and Kylan Hill, and all today. Was it today? Patrick Taylor also was released. How do you feel about those transactions, Joe?
I'm surprised by the Amari one in a way. I mean, I know everybody was pretty much calling for his head because of the special team stuff, but um, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but she seemed to get more clout out of it. It's so funny. Anybody who's been listening to the pod or paying attention to anything that I tweet on Twitter knows that I've been saying all fucking year that the Packers have misused Amari Rogers, and nobody said a word to me or acknowledged it. But this other person, I think her name's Haley, something bales of hay or something on Twitter, says it, and she just gets ripped apart. And it's like, well, she's telling the fucking truth. And I'm sorry for all the language, guys, but we are having a rather late recording, and I just got off work not too long ago, so my my mouth is going to probably fly tonight. So bear with me. Um, but I've said it all along. The Packers have misused Amari, and I know there was a Twitter thing where somebody said, "Well, I'm tired of people saying Aaron's the reason why Amari's not getting used." Well, come on now. It kind of is, because Aaron's going to say, "Well, I don't want this guy on the field. I don't want to throw to him. I'm not going to throw to him. I'm not going to work with him." Well, when you have a quarterback that does that, then yeah, your guys are not going to be used. But I so in a way I'm not surprised it happened, but in a way I am surprised that they didn't at least give him a fair shake on offense before giving him the boot. Now I know he was snapped up pretty quickly. The Texans picked him up. So we'll see what happens when he's down in Houston. Now the
Yeah.
Kylan Hill one really surprised me. And I'll let you talk right now in a minute, Nick, but I'm really on a roll, so let me have this.
Go ahead.
The Kylan really surprised me because he's just coming back from injury, and the small stuff, or the kind of shaded stuff that Matt LaFleur was talking about with the Kylan, or the two cuts, where Amari came in, did everything we asked him to, but he just struggled. So we wanted to give him a chance for a change of scenery. But Kylan Hill getting cut was, being a Packer is a privilege, and you got to show up every day and do work and earn it. And that's kind of the reason why he was cut. It makes me wonder what he did. Was he pouting? Was he not putting in the work? Was he, did he do something off the field that he shouldn't have done? But that one more surprised me just because it came out of the blue. Now, you mentioned the Patrick Taylor thing. That doesn't surprise me too much because he's bounced around so much from the 53 and the practice squad that they needed room for the other transactions they're probably going to end up doing. But that's my thoughts on this stuff. Now you can go, Nick.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a few things we want to touch on. I think again with the Amari thing, I just think I'm never gonna be happy that a guy has just lost his job. As always, I mean these guys, especially on the lower end of like the pay scale. I mean it is like their livelihood, and if they are injured or whatever, it does impact their ability to work for the rest of their life, right? And I think It's a shame that Amari didn't get to succeed with us. I mean, I think you can't really argue that he didn't have a large opportunity on the offense. Where I'm at with it is, I'm not surprised. I'm not incredibly surprised that he was cut. I was just shocked at the timing of it. I thought he was going to be cut probably after the season. But I mean, as Andy Herman said, he got more opportunities than most average NFL players get in their entire career. I mean, like looking at it purely objectively, just on what like the opportunities that he was given, the amount of times that he like fumbled and kind of even just like like bobbled the ball and barely managed to hold onto it, like he got more than enough chances for what he was asked to do, and unfortunately, he probably wasn't the best fit with this team in the end. And hopefully with the Texans, he gets a bit more of an opportunity to kind of showcase what he can do on that, because I don't think there was much room, especially with the guys we drafted this year, for what he brought to the table.
But did he really get a fair shake? I mean, I understand what you're saying that they kept running him out on uh, special teams, but that wasn't his. Pardon the wording for it, but that wasn't his specialty. He was more of that slot style receiver. And I mean, if you go look it up, take a look at how many snaps he actually played, how many targets he actually had. I don't think he really had his fair shake. And this is where I go back to that tweet that, like I said, I'd been talking about all year, and then this Haley had tweeted about and got ripped. He wasn't being used to what he should have been used for. And that's where I say he didn't get his fair shake out of it. Yeah, he shouldn't have never been after the first time. He should have been let off or taken off special teams. That was a dumb mistake. But for some reason they would not get him on the offense, and the small amount of times that he did, he wasn't horrible. So I mean, I will die on this hill as I just don't think he had a fair shake with the Packers. Now, whether that's the coach's fault, whether that's diva quarterback's fault, I don't know. But
I think my
yeah,
thing is that if you like, so if the coaches give you literally one job on punt return, and you're struggling to do that, and at the same time you can't even crack the wide receiver room, that's at the moment is like no, there's no Dobbs. Cobb only has just come back. Lazard's been in and out with injury. Sammy Watkins is like a shell of his former self, and you only really have like Watson and Toure to kind of compete against. I mean, if you can't compete for meaningful snaps against that group, it's not really a great look for you either. And I think like the last thing I'll say is just kind of, even if he necessarily didn't get the most fair chance on offense, there's probably a more valuable player you get out of there with his roster spot, because just because he's not necessarily been given enough chances to kind of show what he could do doesn't mean that you might not rather have someone else who can return punts. Like we just signed D. Westbrook, right? Someone like that, even if maybe he's not necessarily an impact receiver, he'll have an immediate role on the team, where I feel that Amari Rogers kind of just had a bit of an empty spot that might have amounted to something. But I mean, yeah, I'm not really fussed either way with this cut. And I think Kylan Hill was probably the bigger one. He was someone that I was really excited to see this season. But yeah, I mean, another one of these kind of cuts where stuff happens in the locker room, and they just never really like, they never publicize a lot of this stuff. I mean, think back to Kingsley Kiki. Was that just last year or the year before? He was cut in like the middle of the late season, and nothing was said. It's something happened. Something has happened in the locker room. They just don't really want to disclose any of it to the public or the media, etc. And then it's kind of keep it in house. And I feel like that's basically an equivalent of what's happened with Kylan Hill here.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, they've always had mysterious type things happen. I think the one that's always boggled my mind was a few years back, where it was Sam Barrington and Josh Sitton,
Yeah,
where that just like came out of nowhere. So I really don't know. But I'm guessing it's the way he made it sound. I think it was part. I think it was like a third work ethic. A third of it was uh, maybe attitude, and a third of it was maybe something off the field. I mean, outside of the locker room. But that's just digging at
Yeah.
what you could pull out of LaFleur's quote.
Yeah, and I guess it is really kind of hard to say, but I mean, look, they're both players that I think I was very excited about when they were first brought onto the team, and it's a shame to see their time with Green Bay cut short like this.
I did see some tweets where that's why he fell to the 7th round in that year's draft, was there was some character concerns coming out of college, work ethic
Sure,
concerns.
sure. Um, but yeah, I think something I want to talk about here real quickly is just kind of this final shape of the NFC. I think we're kind of at where it's going to be until the end of the season. I mean, who do you think is the best team in the NFC right now?
Well, I guess you got to go off of record because, it's hard to deny what records are. So you'd have to probably go with the Eagles. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are rising, but at this point, like I said, you can only go off of record. You really won't know who the best is until, maybe the last 2 weeks of the season and go from that spot. But it just seems like the Eagles are a complete team at the moment, and they just keep getting stronger with every friggin' player that they're picking up off the street.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't disagree. I think it's kind of the way I see it is a bit of a three-way tie between the Cowboys, the Eagles, and like the 49ers now, kind of coming a little bit. The Vikings, I just don't trust them at all. The potential is so high, but the floor is just so low. I think they're a team that kind of like really is quite reliant on this like the star power that they have at the top end of those position groups, and kind of similar to the Packers a little bit, like underneath a lot of those starters, there's a lot of opportunity for things to kind of go wrong. And I trust a lot more of these more established and experienced units, exactly like you said, like the Eagles. And I mean, the Cowboys, they looked fantastic handing it to the Vikings. I mean, my God, how great did that feel watching that? And yeah, I think, in my opinion,
Especially coming off a loss from the Packers.
oh, absolutely. Get all that frustration out on the Vikings. I just think that the 49ers are probably the best team in the NFC right now. I mean, the way that they're playing, just the guys that they have on offense is just unbelievable. I mean, my God. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Carl Juszczyk, Debo Samuel, George Kittle. I mean, just the sheer magnitude of the talent spread all across that offense, and the offensive line is playing well. They have a top three left tackle. Jimmy G is playing probably the best ball of his career, and it's quite scary to see when you have that defense on the other side, which is also still a top five unit as we've seen the past 2 or 3 seasons. I mean, they're a tough unit to beat, and they're experienced. They've been together for a few years now, a lot of these guys.
But it's still Jimmy Garoppolo, so I mean, I can't really throw that out there because Jimmy's going to lose him a few games here or there. So I mean, I really would have to. I'm going to stick with the Eagles just because I think they're the complete team right now. I don't even think the 49ers are going to match up to the Eagles with the way they're playing. So I mean, and it's weird because everybody was ready to wash out Jalen Hurts. So uh, they've got the playmakers. I mean, Miles Sanders at running back, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Dallas Goddard. Their offensive line is pretty stacked. The defense is really getting stacked. I mean, Darius Slay, they picked up Robert Quinn, they picked up Sue, they picked up Linval Joseph. That's on top of guys like I think Fletcher Cox is still there.
A bit of a
Um,
down year for him, but he's still there. Yeah, Brandon
well,
Graham.
who needs him to have a high caliber year when he's got everybody else playing well for him around or playing around him?
It's true.
Um,
I just think, like, like we all joke about how funny like Jimmy G is and how he can always fall off a cliff. But I mean, what other quarterbacks are there to compete against in the NFC? Kirk Cousins. You have, I mean, Jalen Hurts has been better this season. He's good, but he's not that high end quarterback just yet. I mean, honestly, the best quarterback in the NFC is probably Dak Prescott.
I'm trying to think of all the NFC quarterbacks.
Maybe Geno Smith, Lord and Savior Geno Smith.
Oh yeah, no, I was thinking Heineke. Um, Taylor Heineke. You can't go wrong with that kid. Um, I don't know. I'm really struggling to think of all the NFC quarterbacks right
Well,
now.
exactly, right? Exactly. Like, who is there really to compete against in this conference? I don't think they should be scared of anyone, and they have the
Baker,
ability to.
Baker's the best one ever. I don't know. He's just floundering there in Carolina. Free
And
Baker,
Dalton. Yeah. Um,
sure.
but
Taysom
yeah, I
Hill.
mean, Green Bay legend. Yeah, I just don't think the 49ers should be underdogs in any game they go into the rest of the season. I think they're extremely good.
I I don't think they're going to be underdogs, but I'd have to look at their schedule to see what their upcoming games are. I, I'm I don't know what is it. Can we see real quick?
Oh, I just meant in the sense of yeah, I don't think they should be afraid of anyone in this conference. Like they don't. There's no one in this conference that should be favored against them.
Eagles,
No,
Dallas, maybe. I really I don't think that they're. I think they'll get crunched if they go against them.
no, because the 49ers have such a good balance on
Dolphins.
both sides.
Let's see. They've got the Saints coming up this Sunday. Next week it's Dolphins, then Buccaneers, Seahawks, Commanders. See, they're going to get rolled by my boy Heineke. Raiders, and then Cardinals.
So like,
Colt McCoy. We completely forgot about Colt McCoy, man. Legend himself.
as a quick question before we move on to the game review. Now that Heineke is the starter for Washington, does that mean that now that Carson is the backup, that he is going to be better than because of is that the way that works now? We're living in the strange world where the backup is always better.
Well, no, he's not the backup right now because they haven't reactivated him, have they? I think he's still on IR.
Is he? Oh, okay. Well, when he comes back,
So it's Sam Howell that's the backup, and of course he'd be the scary one.
naturally, yes.
No, I don't think they've activated Wentz yet. So
Right.
yeah, he's not the best. But going with my theory, my logic, then yes, if the Packers were to play him and Heineke got hurt and Wentz came in, then yes, we would fear him because he's the
Okay.
unknown at that moment.
Okay. Just so I know where
And,
we're
well,
at.
well, think about it, Nick. Think back to every game the Packers have ever played that you can remember. When the starting quarterback goes down and the backup comes in, the Packers always shit the bed.
No, it's true. It's true.
I mean, the only time that I can remember it not really happening, but it was kind of close, was going back to 2010 and the NFC Championship game against the Bears, and they had Caleb Haney come in
Yeah.
for Jay Cutler, and the game wasn't even that big of. I mean, it was a big win because it put the Packers in the Super Bowl, but it wasn't a high scoring affair. So yeah, think if you really think about it and go through all the games the Packers have played against backups, they have horrible luck.
Yeah, it's true, and it is like they do have a history of kind of doing this thing to themselves.
So yeah, we can move on now. I think I've touched. I could rant on it all damn day.
Yeah. Okay. So well, let's get into this Tennessee game at home. I mean, it's just as Matt LaFleur said, it's nothing like they played against Dallas. Not even remotely recognizable. This team, besides for one player, Christian Watson still going strong, my boy. But I mean, excuse me. Just think about like how soft they look on defense, how they just kind of refuse to assert themselves physically into any game that they play. I just kind of this is where we're at for the season. This is kind of what we have come to expect from this team. The story of the season to me is just this regression of talent on both sides of the ball. and not getting what you need from your players who are supposed to be good, and not having anything that you can really hang your hat on, your no identity. It was a hard one to look back at and look for something good to pull out of it. Where are you at?
It goes back to what I've said before about Joe Barry. It seems like he can install somebody else's defense, but he can't run his own defense because they had a game plan going in and it relatively worked. They stopped Derrick Henry for the most part. I think what do you got down here on our notes? He rushed for 28 times for 87 yards, averaging 3.1 yards a carry. So I mean, think
That's
about it.
good. That's good.
That's pretty damn good. But and I think I talked about this when we had Jimmy on when we were previewing this game that they were going to stop Henry and dare Tannehill to throw on him, and that's exactly what they did. But they didn't stop Tannehill,
Yeah.
and I think he threw for 300 and some odd yards. I think
Yes.
I got the
The
stats
the
up
best
right
game
here.
he's had all season by far.
I got the stats. Let me look here. He went for 22 of 27 for 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, and he was sacked 3 times.
Yeah.
So I mean, they had the right game plan, but then they couldn't adjust to it. So that, like I said, that tells me that Joe Barry can't run a defense. He can install it, he can, teach it, but he can't run it. If you get what I'm saying with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be honest, I do actually like a lot of the concepts that Joe Barry brings. It's just some of these really like ball breaking tendencies that he has to just kind of like I mentioned last week. He is just so happy to give up a down to move on to a new set of downs because like it'll be okay. We can just stop them the next time around. Like we'll just give them this one conversion and we'll get them on the next one. Just the lack of aggression, I think, is a thing that a lot of fans are very frustrated with. And I mean, to be fair, like I just mentioned, the regression of talent. I mean, the communication breakdowns, the absence of safety play. I mean, Amos has just absolutely fallen off a cliff this season. What does it really say about a team when Rudy Ford, who came on as a special teamer, who gets put in as the safety in week 9, is now the best safety on the roster? I mean, it's just not a great look for this defense.
Yeah,
It's
but the
it's tough.
Packers seem to pull that because remember last year it was Devondre Campbell and Rasul Douglas came in and were completely lights out when nobody expected them to be.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's heartbreaking because Adrian Amos was one of my favorite players to watch, and he's just so bad now. And I mean, Donald Savage in the nickel, whatever. It's okay. It's not the revelation I think we had really hoped it would be so far. It's just a culmination of so many things from all different directions. I think it's unfair to blame Joe Barry on it, but at the end of the day, it's his defense, it's his responsibility. The result that comes out is a direct reflection of him as a coach, and that's kind of where it's at. And it's I would never tell people to not like dislike Joe Barry for whatever reason because he hasn't proved that he can do a good defense in his whole career. Like you said, I mean, he just hasn't shown that he has the ability to adjust and continue to keep the pressure on defenses, on offenses, once they kind of get moving, right?
Well, and see, that's where I say he can take some of the blame because he's the guy that's supposed to be seeing what the offense is doing and make the adjustments for it.
For sure, yeah.
I go back to something that I remember happening. I think it was the first year Barry was D coordinator. Was that last year or has it
Last year,
been
yeah.
2 years? Okay, in one of the games, Barry just kept doing something, and Lafleur talked about it in his press conference where he finally went over and told Joe Barry, "Hey, this is what the offense is doing to you. Maybe you should change something up." And Barry went and changed something up, and they played lights out the rest of the game. So this guy being the defensive coordinator should know when to make an adjustment, how to make an adjustment, what adjustments need to be done. So I think you can split it 50-50. He takes 50% of the blame and the players take 50% of the blame, because the players should be also seeing the things that they need to be doing on the field too. So
For sure.
that's where I go back and say, Joe Barry can install somebody's defense, but he can't run a defense.
I mean, how long has he been around the league for? And he's never done anything like veritably good on his own, right? So, I mean, it's unfortunate that we're here, especially after those little like sparks of kind of potential showed last season. But I just don't think he should be around next year. At the end of the day, I think we should do a full sweep of this defensive. Like,
I won't
I
say a
think
full sweep. I
like
keep hearing
not
people
not
talk about a full sweep,
not every
but
single coordinator, but sorry, I just think like someone like Jerry Gray, he's had more than enough time to get the secondary sorted out, and it's the worst it's been since Matt LaFleur's been here. I think, yeah,
this year
Joe
it's been.
Barry,
This year
yeah,
it's been, but we don't know if that's all part of the regression from last year with uh Joe Barry. So he's at least putting him in a position to play, but they're struggling with the communication out on the field. I mean, that's why I said I think Jerry Gray should stick around, and under the next coordinator, if they still struggle, then you can move on from him. But Jerry Gray's got a shit ton of experience at running a secondary. He's even got experience as a defensive coordinator. So I would hate to get rid of his knowledge, especially when he's been the guy that's really worked with guys like Jair. He's put Razul in the position he has to get him where he's been. I mean, yeah, the safeties you can put on him, but like you said, this year's been the worst with it, but last year was relatively good with our secondary. So, but I do agree, we need to move on from Barry. I can't think of, is it Olivadotti or something that's the linebacker coach?
yeah, Kirk Olivadotti, he's the outside linebackers coach.
Maybe move on from him. I can't think of who's the inside linebacker coach. Move on from those guys, because it's obvious that they're not really working out with, you know, Quay's been looking better this year, or not this year, these last few games, but he's really started out slow. So I'd love to get somebody in here that could really work him up and get him to his full potential. So,
Yeah,
and then the
I think
defensive line coach definitely got to. I mean, I love Jerry Montgomery. A lot. He's an Iowa alum, but our defensive line has not been very good lately.
yeah, and I think I picked Kenny Clark as my guy last week, and I don't think he got the memo.
Well,
He's been one of my favorite players since he started here, and yeah, just a really just a disappointing season from him. I think.
I was watching Game on Wisconsin's Lombardi's Bar, where our special guest from last week, Jimmy Christensen, is a co-host, and Todd Varney, who will be coming up pretty soon as a special guest of the Outback Packer podcast, said something that really clicked in my head once I thought about it. But Dean Lowry, the Titans picked up that they could run all over Dean Lowry. So that
Yeah,
they would, when Dean Lowry would come in, they would constantly run at Dean Lowry. Quay Walker started picking up that they were running directly at Dean Lowry. So he knew when Dean came in, all he would have to do is sneak that way, and that's how he would make his plays against, Derrick Henry and whoever they were running at that play. But when Lowry was out, Quay didn't know what, struggled with trying to figure out where they were running to. So maybe we found our key there. We put Lowry out there, and Quay knows how to, he'll have his best games ever.
yeah, right. Yeah, again, I think it's like there's just so much like of the core of this team that is like fundamentally broken. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Like this season is what I mean. I'm just kind of like I'm done hoping for this season. I'm still gonna watch every single game and cheer them on, but I'm not hoping or like expecting anything to really meaningfully change. But I mean, like you said, Quay Walker, I really like him. I said this before. He would not have been my first pick at that position at all. But the fact he's on the team, I think what he can be is so good, and he has such a high ceiling, right? And seeing him process things faster, and I mean, there were so many tackles in this game where he's against Derrick Henry one on one, and he brings him down. He doesn't like he's not afraid to come in against a big physical guy like that. And it's really nice to see. And like you can, as we always say, I can hear him tackling players all the way over here in Australia. He's just, I love him. He's a very physical player, and I think he could do a lot.
Well, I'm glad he's starting to get more comfortable because he's really looking like the player that they were hoping he could be. So just, continues, like I keep saying week after week, just continue building successes with him.
Yeah.
So,
And speaking of building success, I mentioned it at the very start here, but Christian Watson, damn, he's looking good. I mean, 2 touchdowns, and that's not even counting the amount of times he was just wide open, or he was like on clear out duty. He's just such an impressive, dynamic player, and like I always say, my thing is that even when he's not on the field, he's always a plus to the offense. This is the blocking, the speed, this is the talent, and now that they have to respect him and they know that he can produce, his value is only going to go up to this offense, and he's such a talented young
well, I'm going to hate to break your heart though, Nick. You know he's going to disappear against the Eagles, right?
man. I mean, if anyone on this team is going to score against the Eagles, it's going to be him.
No, he's going to disappear, and this is why I say that. Now that they know he's capable of making plays and he can do those things, they're going to throw Darius Slay on him, and he's going to shadow him all game. And
Yeah.
so I really think it's going to look like he regresses this game, but it's not that he regresses. It's just Darius Slay is going to be all over him.
Yeah, I'm also like like Christian is a bigger guy. That's probably the only thing he really has against Slay. I mean, Slay is a fucking good corner, and he has been for his entire career. And he's a rookie, right? I don't expect him to be dominating these top shelf corners, but just the fact that he's not the kind of person that you can just say, oh, press him. Yeah, well, he's 6'4" and what the 230 pounds, 220 pounds. I mean, like it's not as simple as just putting a corner on him and pressing him. Like that's his value. That's why they loved him so much, is because he has those tools to get over that. Whereas look at like Devonta Smith last year, right? That's the reason why he wasn't drafted in the place Jamar Chase was, because he doesn't have that kind of frame to fill out. He doesn't have that physical ability to kind of maximize his talent. And I think with Christian, you're kind of banking on him getting there. But no, I definitely agree that he's going to have probably a bit of a down game. I mean, this is a phenomenal defense as well. Like, let's not forget about that. I just think it's so nice to see him like actually play. You know what I mean? I think he was always kind of capable of what he's doing now, but he can play, and he is a smart dude, and he's a hard worker, and Aaron likes him. This, like the very subtle things he does well. He knows how to read a zone. He knows how to take advantage of the blind spot, and he's aware of what he's doing in this offense. He's not just trying to, cue up these stats. He's just like he's a very present player. I really like what he does for this team. Maybe my first jersey, we'll see.
I said it when they drafted him and Dobbs, that Dobbs was probably going to be the guy that shined early on, and Christian Watson would be the guy that would come on late. And hey, so far my prophetic ways have, I'm looking pretty good this year.
I mean, look, if he wasn't injured, and also if he was actually there for training camp, I think that he would have been I mean, with what he's put up already, he could have very well been the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Maybe, but I still think he would have. It would have took him a while longer to get into it, just because and as much as you don't like to face it, because you're wearing Christian Watson colored glasses. Um, he was very raw, and it was going to
No, absolutely.
take him a while to get into it. Whereas Dobbs was more refined because he had a bigger route tree and stuff like that. So that's why I said that Dobbs was going to shine early and Watson was going to show up later. And I don't think it would have mattered whether he would have had a full training camp and wouldn't have missed games. I think he would have still been somewhat back until I don't know what game really did he break out on the
Dallas
Dallas
week 9.
game. Yeah, I think it still would have been week 8, week 9 before he would have broke out, even had he went through everything.
Sure. But also, he's the best receiver of all time. So, right?
Sure. And then in 10 years, he'll end up as a Raider.
Oh god, don't put that bad juju on him.
Hey, I got to thinking about this earlier because I was watching a podcast or watching a stream, and they were talking about Packers and Raiders. And if you think about it, almost every good receiver the Packers have had has ended up at the Raiders at some point.
Yeah, it's a real pipeline. I mean, kind of like there was that real pipeline between the Browns for a few years there, right?
Right. I mean, James Lofton ended up with the Raiders. Javon Walker ended up with the Raiders. James Jones, Jordy Nelson, and now Devontae Adams.
Yeah, yeah.
So 10 years. You got 10 years to enjoy Christian Watson as a Packer, Nick.
Yeah, I'll cherish those 10 years with all my heart. Is there anything else that you want to talk about from this game? I'm a bit emotionally crushed from this one, but I'm happy to start talking about the next matchup.
I think you had a couple things on the notes. Keyshawn Nixon looked decent as a returner. The special teams was kind of let down again with the missed or blocked extra point. It was really disappointing. I mean, kind of to echo what I said last week, I was not going to be disappointed one way or the other just because I got the week off, so I was able to watch Packer games while I was sitting at home. So I'm not going to complain about it too much. I can't really think of anything. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I could go on a soapbox if I really wanted to, but I don't think I'll save it for when Todd gets on. And
Yeah,
we'll see what happens after the Eagles, and when Todd gets on as our special guest, we'll save it for that.
yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, let's get into this next matchup then. At Philly, in Philadelphia. I mean, at this point, we're practically like staring down, the gates to heaven. I mean, this is really it. Like, I know we've kind of said that the past couple of weeks. Oh, it's basically over. It's basically over. This is like, no. If we lose this game,
Well, you
like
said
the
that.
season.
I've been optimistic.
Well, I mean, look. The bottom line is, if we lose this game, it is over. I mean, it most likely already is, but mathematically speaking, it will be over this week.
There's a 6% chance the Packers make the playoffs.
If
and
they
as
win
long
every
as there's
single
a
game.
6% chance, I'm with it.
Yeah, and so yeah, this is like I said, this is the last week. So this is really it. I mean, this is where we're going to find out how much they kind of still care. I mean, it should have been that last game that we just lost. I mean, that should have been really where we started to run the table if it was going to be a thing. But yeah, this is it. I mean, we have one of the best teams in the league, maybe one of the like 4 or 5 best teams in the league against the Packers, who are the Packers. We've seen it all season, right? I don't think they're going to completely not show up. I expect them to put up some fight and be in it, but I think that the Eagles probably win by about 9-10 points.
I don't know. We kind of talked about this before starting to record, but this is pretty much a game that the Packers are probably going to end up winning just because everybody's counting them out and they shouldn't win the game, but it'll be like the Dallas game and they'll end up pulling it out. So, yeah, I know the Eagles did sign Sue, and Sue pretty much said he hated the Packers and he was looking forward to play them.
Fuck that
So
guy. Seriously.
Sue's going to end up stomping on Rogers' thumb or something like that. It's going to be a crazy matchup because it's going to be or it's going to be interesting to see how the Packers secondary matches up against the Eagles receiver core.
Mm-hmm.
Is Barry going to put him at soft zone coverage like he has way too often this year? Or is he going to try some press man against these guys? And then you got Goddard to kind of worry about. So,
I think
and
Goddard's out. Goddard's out.
oh, is he out? Okay,
He
well,
was he was injured in this last game. But yeah, I mean,
I think you gotta pressure Hurts, and Hurts is going to be another one like Dak, or maybe not so much Dak anymore, but kind of like Josh Allen, and where you're going to have to spy him. And Quay's been a pretty decent spy so far this year, and he's the type of linebacker who can play as a spy. But the kid can run as well as throw, so that's what's going to hurt.
they just have solutions for everything that we could possibly do to them. So it's quite hard to say where exactly we could kind of beat them. I just think this is not a game where you can, I think with Dallas, right, a lot of their receivers and their talent is like quite speedy guys or quite like skilled guys. Whereas Philly is just like, as they always have been, there's these big physical fuck you guys. I mean, AJ Brown, Jair is a very talented corner, but AJ Brown is a massive physical dude, and it's a tough matchup for any corner, let alone one that's 5'11" and what 200 pounds, 210. It's I think that's going to be a tough matchup for him any way that you cut it. Devonta Smith on the other side is not as big, but I think he matches up route running wise very well with either of those corners, especially the way AJ has been playing this season. As you mentioned earlier in the show, Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts. It's such it's an offense where you're not really sure what you should be prioritizing, especially now with Jalen Hurts' development, like you mentioned. They just have answers for everything you can do, and the Packers don't have the talent to lean on at the moment. I mean, let's just take a quick look at this Packers injury report. All right, so we've got Jair Alexander with a groin, Bakhtiari with a knee, obviously, Chris Barnes with the hand. Devondre Campbell still hasn't practiced. So I think what's the fourth week in a row now, third week in a row. Tariq Carpenter illness. Randall Cobb illness. Mason Crosby also on the illness. Dobbs
Yeah,
still
they're
out with the
saying there's a bug
ankle.
flying through.
Wash your hands, wash your butt. Um,
Yeah.
Romeo Dobbs is still out with that ankle, which I'm not sure if he should have been IR'd or not at the very start. Rudy Ford
I
also
think
has
he
that
was IR'd.
illness. No, he's not. He's on this. He's just on the roster still.
I think
Unless
Dobbs
it
is
happened late
IR'd.
today. I thought he was just on the. I'm pretty sure he's just on the roster.
Oh, maybe he is. I thought he was IR'd because they were talking about how in
Yeah.
4 weeks before he could come back.
Yeah. And again, just to finish off, yeah. So Romeo Dobbs with the ankle, Rudy Ford with the sickness, Shamar John Charles with the ankle, Elton Jenkins with the knee still, Aaron Jones with the shin, Alan Lazard with the shoulder still, Aaron Rodgers with the broken thumb, Quay Walker with the shoulder, and Rashid Walker also with the illness. It's brutal. It's fucking brutal. And on the Eagles, they have one player on the injury report who's like
Well, see,
Josh
we won.
corner.
We've already scored. We've already got more than they do, so we won.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one stat we'll have better than them. Injured players. It's just such a tough matchup. And look, it's any given Sunday, but this is like one Sunday where they need everything to go right for them. And I kind of want to use this opportunity to segue into my guy for this game, Keyshawn Nixon. He's going to come in clutch, bring some life to this Packers special team. You know, when the defense doesn't want to commit, when the offense doesn't want to cooperate, you got the special teams left, and that's where they're going to get the 3 touchdowns. I think this is a game where Keyshawn Nixon's going to take over, set a new record for punt return touchdowns, and win them the game. All right.
Sure. And then you're going to be heartbroken when they bring D.D. Westbrook up as one of their practice squad elevations and he's taking over duties.
I love him actually. I loved him when he was with the Jags. I have no issues with him being signed.
I can't believe he's still around. I remember
I thought he
hearing
was
about
out of the
him
league.
coming
Yeah.
out of the draft. So but here's some interesting numbers for you. I'm looking at the preview for the Packers Eagles game. And you've got Aaron Rodgers, who's 243 passes on 376 attempts for 2,542 yards and 19 touchdowns. And then you got Jalen Hurts, who has 198 passes on 290 attempts with 2,407 yards and 15 touchdowns. So if you break that down, Packers have the check mark there with their quarterback. Then you look at wide receiver. You got Alan Lazard with 38 receptions for 529 yards and 5 touchdowns. A.J. Brown, 49 receptions for 785 yards for 6 touchdowns. So you got to give the Eagles the check there. And with rushing, you've got Aaron Jones with 143 rushing yards, 778 yards, and 2 TDs. And then Miles Sanders with 156 rush yards, 750 yards, or 156 rushes, 757 yards for 6 TDs. So that one I think I would call it a push because though they have more TDs, Jones has got more yards out of it. I mean, the offenses are pretty close. The Eagles are a little bit more established because they've had more time working between the quarterback and the receiving core there. But I mean, you look at this and you wouldn't think the Packers are the 4-7 team.
No, and I think the Packers have their like production wise have been better than the record that they have. I just think, like I mentioned, the regression of talent, the Eagles have that talent to fall back on, whereas the Packers don't really. And then they're still struggling to kind of figure out what they want to do scheme wise. I mean, we kind of only got the first glimpse of that in Dallas. And with Cobb back, it helps. And I think stopping the Eagles offense is going to be easier than overcoming that defense. It's just so difficult when the guys that you're relying on are so unproven and there still is no real go-to guy for this Packers offense, which should be Aaron Jones. But I guess this is one of the best rushing defenses in the league, and it's going to be really tough.
Well, here's one for you, and this one still boggles my mind. Defensive passing yards per game, the Packers are at 192 and they're ranked 5th. The Eagles have 178 and they're ranked 2nd. So they're both top 5 when it comes to defensive passing yards per game. Yeah. Then you look at the rushing yards. The Packers are at 135 and they're ranked 24th. And the Eagles are at 122 and they're ranked 19th.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, if you were to match up these stats, you wouldn't think that the Packers would be 4-7. They would be, but then again, you wouldn't think the Eagles would be 9-1 either. You would think it would be more, like a 7-3 or whatever. But
yeah, I think they've really struggled to stop the run with Jordan Davis out, but with these signings coming in now, then Paul Joseph, Dominican Sue, that's kind of where they get that meat back in the middle there. I just think it's so tough to find a way out of this. It's just so constricting, and like the talent they have on that roster, just the sheer talent it will definitely be an uphill battle. Anyway, we cut it.
I don't know. Like I said, it's going to be this is a game that everybody's expecting them to lose, and they'll end up pulling it out somehow. Whether it's like a Mason Crosby last-minute field goal or, Rogers Hail Mary or some shit like that.
Well, actually, I just want to say quickly as well before we go to the over and unders here. There is actually a non-zero chance that this is Rogers' last start for the Packers. And I mean, how would you feel about that if we go on to Jordan Love the next game potentially? And I mean,
I
that's
don't think
like
it'll
if
happen.
no, I
I
don't
don't
think
think
it will
one
happen
more.
either. But there is a non-zero chance that this could be his last start.
No, I think it's a zero chance because as long as Rogers is sitting there saying, I'm going to play, I'm going to play, I don't think at this point in the season, LaFleur is going to say, I don't care what you think, you're sitting. The only way that Rogers is going to get taken out is when Rogers says, I'm sitting down. And I don't see him doing that except for maybe the last game of the season.
Yeah, I don't think Rogers would want to because he's finished seasons with injury or sinking ships before. But I just think you have to see what you have in Jordan Love. It's just so ridiculous to not play him, no matter what the quarterback thinks. You just need to basically tell him to fuck off because you have to play Jordan Love because otherwise you have no idea where you want to be in the draft cycle next year. Like whether or not you want to try and get move on again for the 2024 draft and try and draft someone then because that's going to be a strong quarterback class. Yeah, you can't let the 39-year-old quarterback determine your plans for the future.
Well, they already have, though. I mean, think about it. I've said this before on our podcast. Rogers always said he didn't want to be Brett Favre, and now he's become Brett Favre. Because I'm sorry, if your thumb is that bad, sit your ass down. This was kind of the soapbox that I was going to go on earlier that I told you I wasn't going to, and now you drug it out of me. So this is all your fault, Nick. If you're that hurt that you can't make the throws that you need to make, your accuracy's down, your deep ball's down, then sit your ass down. Don't cripple the team because you're being bullheaded, or as I've been saying, a diva. Sit your ass down, let your thumb heal, see what you get out of Jordan Love. Who knows? Maybe we wouldn't have went on that 5-game losing streak. Maybe
Yeah.
putting Love out there, we could have went 2-3, and we'd still have a good shot at the playoffs when Rodgers came back from however long he sat down. So if you're that hurt, sit your ass down. I suppose I'll end the rant right there.
Yeah, I mean, I am biased as someone who is a Jordan Love supporter. It's just, yeah, and if you look at that question in a vacuum, right? Oh, should they have benched him on the thumb? And at that point, they were what 3-2, 3-3, and of course you would say, if he still thinks he can play, of course not. You wouldn't bench a starting quarterback. But since then, I mean, they've only had one win, right? I think it's tough to argue that Jordan Love wouldn't have gotten at least one win, and you still know more information about next season that you're looking forward to. Maybe Rodgers has time to actually heal his thumb, and he comes back at a high level. I mean, it's just tough because, like we said before, they've just shoehorned themselves into such an awkward in between position with kind of the state of this team, and they're just not really getting much of either end of the commitment.
Right. And like I said, I mean, it gives me a lot of shades of Favre when he broke his thumb, and I think it was
Sure.
2003. Because if you're that hurt, then you need to step out and say, all right, put the other guy in, let me heal up. And hopefully the other guy doesn't screw up bad enough that when I come back, we're still in the hunt and we can make a playoff push.
Yeah.
So I put it's not like when he had the uh what was it, the fibula fracture or whatever it was, week 1 against the Bears a couple years back. He still struggled a little bit, but he was able to make the throws because he could still grip the damn ball. You broke your thumb. You can't grip the ball like you should.
Yeah.
If you can't do it, sit your ass down. So I don't know. It's frustrating. I get what you're saying though, that if he still thinks he could play, you still want to see him out there to give him your chance. But
Well, it's more like at that point in the season, if it was like just then and you didn't know how bad it exactly was and what it would lead to, and he just says that he's fine, you as the team, you kind of have to just say, okay, whatever. But because I mean, to shut him down right there would have been pretty intense if he thought that he could play and you didn't really know the full extent. You know what I mean?
But
Like
he
looking
should
back on
know
it,
his
it's
body,
easy.
right?
No, but
He
he's
should
never
know
going to
his
be
body,
honest
right?
about it. He's never going to be honest about it. But
Right,
if
but
you're
I
in
mean,
that, if, sorry, go.
theoretically, if you broke your thumb, you would know that something's wrong with your thumb, right?
No, but I'm thinking in the sense of if you were in that room, if you're Matt LaFleur or Goodkunst or whatever, and you say, "Oh, how do you feel about playing on this thumb?" and Rogers is probably not going to be honest with you, and he says, "Yeah, I'll be fine." Like you can't really just say, "Okay, we're going to shut you down." Like it's in that position
Well,
with who he is.
I'm not saying that they gave him a choice on it or not. I'm saying that he himself should have said, "All right, there's something wrong with my thumb." You know, give him that one game to play the next game and see where you're at. But then he should have said, "All right, there's something wrong with my thumb, guys. Let's get it looked at. Maybe you should go ahead and play Jordan until we can figure out where I'm at with my thumb." And, he should have made the decision because there's no way LaFleur is going to make the decision. Rodgers has got this team so whipped that there's no way LaFleur is going to make that decision. So
Yeah, but also
he
like
himself should have.
I definitely agree that he should have, but there's no world where Aaron Rodgers is gonna let someone else like be the quarterback for him when that was kind of he was someone who took someone else's job who was extremely like extremely revered for a time in that community. And it's the same reason why every quarterback fights for their job so hard is because no matter who that backup is, if they somehow manage to be good enough to the team, you won't have a job by the time of the end of the season. I mean, just look at like the way how Tom Brady got his job, or even just like Favre to Rodgers. They didn't even fully know what Rodgers was when they started him, and they felt like there was enough information for them to fully move on from Favre. Granted, there's a lot of background contextual stuff I'm not mentioning, but I do understand why he wouldn't do it. It's just such a tough position, and with the retrospect in mind,
I,
yeah, it's like
I
it's kind of hard to say that you wouldn't have won at least the same amount of games with Jordan Love.
I disagree with that. Uh, there at this point in time, there's no way that they're gonna say, "Aaron, you're sitting," because I mean he's coming off two straight MVPs. So it's all right. We're gonna put this guy in there until you get back healthy. Just like any other time somebody starting quarterback gets hurt and they put in the backup. So no, I don't agree with that. He's worried that Jordan's going to come in and take his spot. So no, there's something more to it than that. Because if all else fails, if Jordan comes in and plays well and at least wins you 3 games, then you come back and you guys go all the way to the Super Bowl. You either A, retire as a Super Bowl champion, or B, you come back with another chance and they trade Jordan for as much as they can get out of him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, do you want to, with that discussion, kind of
No,
there? Do you want to finish up with your over unders here?
sure. But don't you want to know who my guy was since you said yours and you wouldn't even give me my spot?
Oh, yeah. Sorry,
Jeez.
go on.
What? How's this work, Nick? God. You'd think I was the one, you were the one that didn't get to talk much. Huh. Huh. No, I don't really have any guy anyway. So I just, the only one that I wrote down was Tyler Goodson. And the only reason that I said that was just to see if they give him a practice squad elevation this week. I really don't see the Packers running with just 2 running backs on the 53 or the 48 uh, game day roster. So I look forward to seeing him being brought up unless
Hmm.
they bring in somebody random to fill that spot. Because I really don't. There's no way they're just going to run with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon for game day. So Yeah.
Yeah, I think Tyler Goodson is just one of those guys. I think at running back, you need that athleticism, and you can kind of, to some degree, teach the vision and the decision making, etc. But he's just a guy that's very fun to watch. I mean, at this point in the season, where I'm not banking on us winning the Super Bowl anymore, I just think he's just going to be fun to watch, man. I mean, you kind of, if you want to sit Aaron Jones for a bit, let AJ Dillon and Tyler Goodson kind of take up the bulk of those snaps once we kind of get to the point where we're mathematically eliminated. Tyler Goodson is just fun to watch, man. And if he kind of asserts himself and maybe earns himself a real roster spot, I mean, yeah, why not? It'd be sick. I love the kid.
I've said it for a long time. I think if he would have went back to Iowa this year and reestablished himself, he would have got drafted.
It's quite surprising he wasn't drafted at all.
He struggled uh, his junior year. He wasn't hitting the holes like he should have. He hesitated too much. I mean, when he would get out in the open, he was a playmaker, but the statistics and the decision making on his part just wasn't there that last year at Iowa. But had he come back this year, I think it would have been a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I suppose I'll do my over unders now, even though I struggled trying to figure them out too.
Hit me then.
We'll do some softballs here. 1.5 TDs for Christian Watson.
I honestly think he'll get one. I just don't think two is going to happen this game. They're going to go real hard on him, like you said, and just those safeties. I think he's going to be being more of the diversion guy. Maybe you get another good Cobb game, and if by some miracle Dobbs is back, I mean, you might see him in. But I don't see him getting that 3 TD number once again now that he's established himself as a real threat.
I don't know. I suppose I'll go the over just to be different. Say one receiving and then maybe one rushing. They'll give him an end around or something. So
Yeah, sure, yeah.
that'll be the two. Here, we'll do this. Half a sack for Kingsley Ignabare. I still can't pronounce his name. Damn
Anagbury?
it. There you go. Something like that.
No.
Inigbare. I think it's Inigbare.
No, it's Anagbury. He mentioned it prior to the season.
Well, then everybody else lies to me. Damn people.
Yeah.
But half a sack.
Yeah, I gotta go under. This Eagles offensive line is just so good. Unless he manages to get like a technical sack while Jalen Hurts is out of the pocket towards the side and he grabs him. But this is just such a good offensive line for the Eagles. I have a tough time seeing him break through.
I'll go the over. I'll say he gets one sack just because I think that they'll end up like double teaming Preston and somehow he'll be able to. I mean, he's really come on the last few games.
He's
I'm really
good. Yeah.
surprised with the way he's really come on. So I think he'll get one. I really do.
Yeah, he's sick. I love him. He was he's a great player and I loved him coming in and it's nice to see him doing some cool things now.
Okay, the last one I'm going to do, and I probably should have set this number higher just because I know it's going to be higher, but 4.5 mentions of Rodgers' broken thumb.
Over. It's going to be the story of the game. Now that it's official, I think as soon as he like even looks at his thumb, it's going to be, oh, so the thumb's bothering him. Oh, he didn't quite make that throw. Or maybe it's the thumb, blah, blah, blah. And
Maybe
it
I
probably
should
is justified, right?
Maybe I should change it to 4.5 close-ups of the thumb.
I still think it's going to be over.
Because you know they're going to zoom in on that fucking thing.
Oh, they already have been, you know. Yeah, I think it's going to be over. It's going to be like 10 plus mentions, I think.
Yeah, it's probably going to end up being over. So.
Because, I don't know who the broadcast team is for this, but especially if it's someone like Collinsworth, it's just going to be,
it is.
Is it?
It's the Sunday night game, so it'll be Collinsworth and what's the guy's name? Mike Tirico.
Yeah, Mike Tirico. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Mike, he's gripping that thumb again. You already, it's 100% it's going to be over. Yeah, it's hilarious. But I think that's probably just about all we have for today's show. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we sign off here?
Yeah, a couple things. As we're recording this, we're going into Thanksgiving, so I hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving that listens that's in the U.S. I know you guys down in Australia don't celebrate this as well as most of the people in the rest of
No.
the world. Even though it's a sham of a holiday, basically the white people take it over the indigenous people's lands. It gets celebrated every year. But feed yourself or you stuff yourself full of turkey and whatever else you eat for the day, and enjoy the football games and look forward to the next episode because, like I kind of spoiled earlier, Todd Varney will, unless something changes, Todd's going to be on this coming or this next episode, and I look forward to that because, and I feel sorry for Nick because me and Todd have like similar personalities.
Oh no. Might be busy next week.
So it should be a fun episode next week as long as things still stay planned. Anything from you? I guess I'll give you the final word.
No, yeah, I just think, yeah, it's tough to kind of see where this team's gone through this season, and maybe this is the end, or maybe we have a glorious win. I just hope they don't keep dragging me along with that tiny sliver of hope for the rest of the season.
6%. That's all we need. 6%.
But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be watching the game. It's gonna be sick, and yeah, I mean, I'm still gonna enjoy it for what it is, right? I'm a diehard Packers fan for a reason. I don't just give up. So
I got one more over under for you, just for fun.
Yeah,
just for fun. Over under 2.5 Santa Clauses in the stadium.
2.5. I gotta say under.
I'm gonna say there's gonna be 3. They're gonna end up seeing 3 on the camera, just because we're starting to hit that time of year. If this was Green Bay, I would have said how many hunters you would have saw in the stadium.
In November, really?
Oh yeah, this is the time of year that the hunting season's big.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I think that's going to be all from us for today, guys. As always, you can find us on Twitter at NicholasGRGR and at Iowa_Joe86. Find the podcast at Outback_Packers. Until next time, we'll see you later.